Hello, this is Julie. Today we had a question at the Make the Cut forum about how to make this shelf card design in Make the Cut. So I did a little searching online and I found that the original designer of a 3D shelf card had posted the files online. This was called a 3D shelf card. So at the forum I posted the link to where you can download the card. She also posted a studio version of the card. So if you go to this website of the Sassy Ladies blogspot.com and download her studio version of the card, you can get it there. She also has a JPEG version that you can download. And then I found a video assembly by someone else that you might like to see how the card is put together. If you search online on Pinterest for shelf card, you'll see all kinds of lovely projects made according to this design. So be sure to look to get some ideas on how to decorate the cards. What I'm going to do is show you how to get this file from Silhouette Studio into Make the Cut and Ready to Cut in Make the Cut software, or if you prefer to export it as an SVG that's usable in other software. So we'll get started by opening up the Silhouette Studio. I'll go to File and I'm going to open this studio file, and I'm using the Designer Edition version 2.0. You could use 1.9 if you wanted to. And I've already downloaded the shelf card. That was the JPEG folder. Here's the 3D shelf card. So open it in Studio. There's a lot of pieces in it, but all I have to do is go to File, Save As, and change that Studio to SVG and click OK. Now I'm going to go into Make the Cut and we'll open a new project here, and I will go to the SVG icon at the top of the page to import the SVG and look for my 3D shelf SVG card and click on Open. And you'll see that all these pieces come in, including the instructions. Now I'm going to change my mat here to green so that you can see the various pieces on here. And nothing is grouped, so the first thing that I do when I get this project in here is click away from the selections to deselect. I'm going to take the text in each little area, click on the join at the bottom and send it to its own layer, because I'm not going to want to cut these words. So I join it together to make it easier to handle, and I just click on the smaller of the two green plus icons in the lower right hand corner so that I can put these words on other layers so that they can be hidden, so I don't want to cut them. So first I'm joining and then sending to its own layer. I'd also like to send the instructions to its own layer, so I'm going to hide them for now. You don't need them right now. And now I have all of these different words here. I'd like to put all the text on their own layer. So I'm going to click on this and hold Shift and click on each of the words on the right side of the screen here on the Layer Properties toolbar and click on the smaller, the green plus icons to send all of these to a single layer. Now I can click on the trash can to get rid of the empty layers, and I can hide all of the text that I've selected. The next thing, oh, I forgot one of the texts. I'll get that. Send it to its own layer. Now that I'm going to open the others and send them all to the same layer. Click on this layer, hold a shift, click on this layer, and click on the plus icon, so now they're all on the same layer, and I'll hide them. So now I'm left with the design pieces. The next thing I like to do is put all the score lines on their own layer, because if you want to use a scoring tool, you're going to need to have them, the score lines, on a separate layer. If you don't want to use a scoring tool and you just want to use dashed lines, these dashed lines might cut okay. Let's look at this in outline form. Those score lines are very close, and I like to spread mine out a little bit more so that they don't tear. Because I generally don't use a scoring tool, I generally just cut them. So I'm going to select these scoring lines, I'm going to join them and send them to their own layer. Then I'm going to select these score lines, join them, send them to their own layer, and these score lines, join them, send them to their own layer, and these score lines, join them, and send them to their own layer. Now I'm going to hide all of these score lines, and I'm going to leave them on separate layers for now because I want these score lines to stay with the actual designs. Did I get these? They don't look like I got these. Send them to their own layer and hide. There we go. Now all of the pieces that I have left, I would still like to join them together. These, once you select all of these pieces and click on join, you see the way it's going to look when it's cut out with the slots. And then I'll select all of these and join. And I'll select these to keep the cut lines with the piece, because I will be moving these around on my screen in order to cut, and I would like the lines to stay all together. So the other thing I might want to do is change the color of these. I'll change these to pink so that I can kind of view this on contrast here, see them a little more clearly. And when I cut these, since they don't all fit on one cutting mat, I'm going to right click on 3D shelf card and select each its own. This way each of the design pieces goes to its own layer, and I can choose the pieces that I want to cut. Or if you prefer, another thing that I could do, which I think I will, is select the shapes that are going to go on one page, and I'm going to send them to one layer and click on the trash can to get rid of the empty layers. Then those pieces that will fit on another page, I can select all those and send them to their own layer. Now if you were going to cut these all out of different colors, that's where you would want to decide if you want them on separate layers or not. It's all up to you and how you decide it. And you can determine what you want in terms of designs for these. A lot of the ones that you see online are being sold as print and cut with all kinds of artistic designs printed on these different pieces. and it would be up to you to decide how you want to decorate your card. But right now I have all the pieces all on one page. I'm going to show everything with the toggle this eye in the lower right corner, show all, and I'll zoom out a little to show you that we have everything here. Now if you wanted to, you could send each layer to its own page, but before I do that, I would like to save all of this as SVG. I see a little score line there. I wonder what that is. I'll send that to its own layer. Oh, it's not a score line, it's a word. Okay. So I'm fine on that. And I thought I was showing all the layers. Oh, all of the words are way down here on the bottom, so if you want to see the text, which I probably do when I export this, I'm going to move this layer to the top. Now I can see all of the text. If I want to see these instructions really clearly, I found the quickest way to do that is to move it over here and go to File and Print Preview. But I'll have to move it to the top, so right click on the layer, move layer to top. Now I can go to File, Print Preview, and I can read these instructions anytime I need it, which would probably help me if I put this on a separate page so that I could just go to that page for instructions. But for right now, I want to leave it all here. I want to select all using the lower left arrow icon and go to File, Export, Selection to SVG. I'm going to do one more thing here. All these score lines need to go to the top, I think, for them to be more visible. So I'm selecting them all, and I can join them. I think I will join them so that they're all one piece. And I'm going to move this layer to the top by right-clicking and selecting Move Layer to Top. Now I can see all those score lines. I'll get rid of the empty ones. These are just things that I do when I'm preparing to cut or export. The other thing that I didn't do yet was change all these score lines. By clicking on the color box icon, I can click on Line Style, and I'm going to move these score lines, give them more space between them, and that's how I prefer to do my score lines. And I'm going to put this text all on one layer. And one more thing I do is label the layers. This is Do Not Cut Text. Remind myself I'm not cutting this, and I remind myself that this is score lines. So what I'm doing is just clicking on the layer twice, double clicking the layer name, and typing in, this is instructions, so that I know what each layers are. I'm not going to give these layers names, but if you wanted to, you could name them middle, back, front, as you prefer. Now I think I'm ready to select all and export as SVG. So I go to File, Export, Selection to SVG file, and I'm going to name it 3D Shelf Card. A little different than the original SVG file, just so I know that it's my editing and it's ready for me to use in my other software. So I click on Save. So it's been exported now as SVG. I'm going to also save as 3D Shelf Card .mtc. I'm going to save it in MTC format. So to make it easier for me to cut, I've joined all of these score lines together. I think it might be good to not have them all together. So I can use this split, and the reason I'm going to split them is I want to take this group of shapes to the next page. To do that, I'm going to go to Edit, Cut, and I'm going to open a new page, and I'm going to go to Edit, Paste in Place, and just move it all over here. Now again, I'll click on the layers themselves to select them, send them to their own layer, which leaves the text and the score lines. So I'm going to hide this so we can see. So I'm going to take the text, put it on its own layer. Now I have the score lines, and I'll move them to the top. So I'll hide the words, and now this is ready to cut as a single page. The other thing that I'll do is I'll take these instructions and cut, or Control X cuts, and click on a new page here. I'll type in instructions, add, and Control Shift V paste it back here. So now when I need instructions, I just go to File, Print Preview, and there they are without any shapes getting in the way. I'll also want to move my instructions forward. That moves the tab to the right. So now I have this page here, and I want to make sure that I join my score lines again and hide my text, and now I have my designs on several pages, and I can decide on colors when I've got the theme of my card ready to go. So I'll go File and Save. I like to keep it all on one page until I export as SVG, because I can import that SVG into other software all as a unit. But now for me to use it on my Zing or my Puzzles or Gazelle or Cameo, I can do that all from this software. And so I organize it the way I like it. You can organize it the way you like. So that's really all there is to it if you're doing the SVG file from Studio. It's Silhouette Studio Designer Edition versions 2.0 or 1.9. So if you don't have Silhouette Studio and you need to get the files in, there's another way to get it in. You click on a new page here. If you downloaded the JPEG version, you would click on the pixel trace icon to get it in. And you see that there's 4 pages, one of them being the instruction page. So what you do is you double click on the file you want, and you can bring it in. It will probably be fine, but I'm going to, just to make sure, I'm going to take the threshold up to about 160, apply the changes just to make sure all the lines are connected. When we bring in line art in to make the cut, you get double lines. So in order to get rid of the double lines, we will be working with this. And another problem here is that these shapes don't come in the right size from the JPEG files, so we will have to do some resizing. So let's bring them all in first. I'll go again to Pixel Trace, and here's the second page. And again, I'm going to take this up to about 160, apply changes. Now it's going to have to be higher on this one because those lines are not coming in solid. Now this method of getting the files in is not near as clean and precise in terms of size and straight lines, but it works if you don't have the designer edition. I'm going to click on the third file, and I'll take this up a little bit to 160, apply changes, and import. So I have several different files. You see how small this one came in as opposed to these, and they're not proportional, so I'm going to need to readjust according to specific measurements. But before I adjust the size, I need to do some changes on the getting rid of the double lines and getting the text out of the way. So first thing I'm going to do is select the shape and then click on layer, and then I'm going to click on the center of the piece, move it to the top, and I'll go to the green screen so we can see what we're doing. And then I'm just going to click on the X, the red X, to get rid of the extra double lines. If I zoom in real close, you'll see what I mean about the double lines. Type 4 and 3. I remove the outside extra double line, but you see in here there's double lines and the text that we don't need. So to get rid of that, I'm going to click on this to select it and then select break. And I'm going to click on the center. Maybe I'm going to get rid of the outside layer because it's a little more distorted than the inside. I like to keep the lines that are the best if I have a choice between one line or the other. So I get rid of that, and then I'm going to just delete the text. It's not very legible anyway. And then these score lines, you'll notice, are round instead of being lines, and I really would rather have lines there. So first I'm going to get rid of the center piece of this double line and get rid of this here. Text. Just hitting the delete key after I select it. Now I'm going to select these score lines, and I'm going to go to the wrench tool at the bottom and click on thin paths, and this created, I'm going to undo that again so I can make sure that I select all of it. When you use thin paths, it creates lines in place of those circles most of the time. It didn't do that here. Not sure why. Another thing I can do, if I like these lines, I'll join them. Make sure they look the way I want, and I'm going to join these. And see, these are holes and they're kind of ugly. So what I'm going to do is delete those, and I'm going to select these, hold Control and Shift, and use my right, I'm going to drag off a copy and move them over to the right, making sure that these lines are lining right up with the original. You can see the X, the plus on the left side, and my dotted lines showing the location, and I'm going to release everything here. So now I have some better lines here. This one also has a center double line. I'm just going to select it and delete it, and I'm going to select these and delete them. Now the trace on this shape is not ideal. That'll work. You can, if you wanted, you could just replace that. I'd probably even replace these with better perfect shapes, but to do that I'll create a new layer, and it's highlighted in gray, and go up here to the shapes, basic shapes, and double click on the square and just resize it to the size that I would like this window to be, to get a nice clean square. If you'd rather use a rounded rectangle, you could. And then I'm going to hold Control Shift and drag it up to here and just resize it here, and then Control Shift and drag a copy down here. And I'm going to go ahead and select these new ones. They're already selected. I'm just going to hide those and delete the ones that are here. Now I can show these, and I have some better lines there. I'm going to take these score lines and send them to the top and hide them, because now I want to grab this whole piece right here and use join. If I were going to use this file, I'd probably clean up that corner. In fact, I might just replace this whole thing because it's crooked and kind of ugly. So to do that, I'll just use break, and I will hold Control and Shift and drag me a copy of this rectangle and just resize it so that it's up here. If I do have a rounded rectangle available in my basic shapes, I'll send that to the top, hide it, delete this one, and then have this one available. So if I don't want these square corners, I could get the rounded rectangle. For time's sake, I'll just use what I have here. So now I have this piece and the score lines ready to go. The only thing that I haven't done to this piece that I would need to do is resize it. So I'm going to go back to, you can either go back to Silhouette Studio and see what the size is there. You can select it, and they have two pieces there. You can right click and ungroup and then select that piece, and you see that it's 7.230 inches. So if I select this, I want it to be 7.32, what was it? 7.320, okay. On the width, 7.23, and enter with the gold lock icon on to resize. And that resized the score lines as well. So I'm going to zoom back out, and before I start working on these pieces, I'll move them over. So move the score lines up and get rid of the empty layers, and now I'm ready to do pretty much the same thing on these. Each one of these shapes has double lines on it. They're all selected, and I think I'll layer them all at once. Click on Layer, Control plus L, and then click on the top to send the top pieces to the top layer. I'm going to get rid of these bottom pieces here. And I have a score line there. Oh, that's a score line. That belongs here. Now to get rid of these extra little spaces here, I'm just going to split and delete these. Now I've gotten rid of the double lines on the outside, so this one's fine, and this one is fine on the outside. but we have some inside double lines and we have text that needs to be removed. So in order to get rid of anything in the middle, I need to use a break. So to do that, I click break, select the text and delete it, and click on break, select the text and delete it, click on break, select the text and delete it, now I have a center line in here. I'm going to delete that. Delete that one. I could zoom in real close to see those. And I want to check these score lines are probably going to need to be made into thin paths. If we group them, we can see them better. So I'll join them, click with the join. And we have a couple score lines here. We'll join those, and again, thin paths. Select these. I'll join them, and thin paths. So now, probably I'll send these score lines to their own layers so that they're out of the way, and hide them. Now this one is ready to join, and that one's not needing anything. And let's look at this one. I'll type 4 and 3 to zoom in really close. Well, there's no double line, just a little slit there. It picked up part of one of the dashes. I can get rid of that little thing by clicking on the figure 8 up here, clicking on the eraser tool, and holding the control key. I can get a, and I want to do an inverse erase. So I'm going to Control Z, undo that. Well, I can do it again. I'll hold down Control and just drag over it. And that gets rid of the extra little jaggy there. And I don't see any double lines, so I think we're fine on that one. So I'll zoom back where we were, and this one has probably the same issue. Type 4 and 3, get in there real close, and sure enough, click the eraser, hold the Control, and drag. As you can see, cleaning up these designs takes some major time, so you can see why it's worth it to me to have the designer edition and save as SVG with the 2.0 or 1.9. Much easier. But if you only have a few designs to do and you don't mind taking the time, you can get this all done. Okay, so I think we're ready to show all. Now all we have to do is check the sizing. Now these pieces all have here's the shelf. This I didn't break this yet, so I'm going to ungroup it, right click and ungroup, and select just this size and see, it's 7.365 tall, 7.365, and this would be on the width. 7.365, enter. So that one's the right size. And the back, 4.515 across, 4.515. enter. I'll just move that up. And then this one that looks like a cupcake, this one here, is 3.7. Was that 3.7 bottom to top? And then the one that looks like a cupcake, and that's 6.865. Width. I think. Let me check it. Yeah. Width. Okay, so I've essentially got the same thing. I can also import the instructions if I want. I can click on the new page, add, then go over here to the, again, pixel trace, click on the instructions, and this time I want to view the whole thing at full resolution. I'm going to go 255 on the threshold, texturize, blackout path, apply changes, and import finish tracing. Then I can just resize it real big. Might want to use the contrast matte to see it better, or even better yet, go to File, Print Preview to view the instructions when I need it, and close. So again, I can save these. Maybe I'm going to make these pink. Get rid of my extra layers. And I can save this whole thing. I'm going to want to hold the Shift key and put all of my score lines on a single layer. I like to have them at the top, then I can see them. Move layer to top. Okay, so we can see all the lines and double check it, make sure it's the way we want. If these lines are not looking too nice, we could always redraw them. Zoom in 4:3 and see what those lines look like. And some of them are not too good. So they're on, I'll add a new layer and I'll show you how to draw the lines. Sometimes it's easier to just draw a design than it is to trace it, but I just click on the Bezier draw tool and maybe put snapping on of 1/16 of an inch. Left click at the top of the line and then right click at the bottom. Then I have a new line. Now I can hide that line, and probably want to come over here and do the other one too. It's not too neat either. You hide, make sure I'm on this layer. Click on the draw tool and I'm going to follow these guidelines here. Left click and right click. And I'll hide these lines so that I'll go back to my top arrow, click this to select it. I'll have to zoom out a little bit. Delete that, show these lines, and go to the color tool, click on line style and create my dashed lines there. So there we go. We have the same project. It just took a whole lot longer using the JPEG files, but that's just another lesson. And if you only have a JPEG design, then now you know how to get it into the software to work with it. And with that, I will see you later.